everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to the brand new rally pre-show. What a weird year it has been. We've had a pandemic that's put entire countries on lockdown, worldwide movements for racial justice and against white supremacy, murder hornets, out-of-control wildfires in Australia, and did you know that an asteroid narrowly missed the Earth just a couple months ago? So, all of that, and I also think and hope that our weirdest years sometimes have the biggest impact. So while our rally might look wildly different this year, there are no large crowds, there's no hugging, no yelling in close proximity to each other. Thank you so much for joining us for our new version of the Spirit of Stonewall Rally. I am heartened by how much our community seems to be truly embodying the spirit of Stonewall this year. When I was employed as a professional archivist, I collected and preserved and shared LGBTQ history. And believe me when I tell you that this thing happening now in 2020 is truly historic. So Stonewall might have been the tinderbox that sparked the modern LGBTQ rights movement. But Stonewall was made from the moments that came before, that built on each other until they exploded that night at the Stonewall Inn in 1969 and caught fire. This moment, too, is not just one solitary moment of short-lived explosion. This moment belongs to a movement that has been fighting for Black lives for decades, for centuries. This is not just a moment. This is a movement. And here to talk about that movement and the LGBTQ movement with me is the one and only Jerry Dilno, a long-time veteran of the Pride movement and the social justice movements we're still in. Hi, Jerry.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I have a little trouble hearing you, but I'm good.
Okay. I will try to project as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, there's
my partner here.
the wind is kind of taking your voice away too.
All right. I'll put on my best butch voice for you. All right. So my first question, and I know I sent you these questions in advance, and also we only have 10 minutes to talk about the history of Stonewall, the history of Pride. And so first question is there an important piece of San Diego Pride history?
I'm still having trouble hearing you clearly.
Okay. I'm still having trouble hearing. How close can you get, babe? I'm just going to hold it. All right. Is this better? Jerry,
Is that better?
Can you hear me better?
I can hear you a little better now.
All right. So, first question is there an important piece of San Diego Pride history that you think more people should know about? And if not, do you have a favorite memory of working with San Diego Pride? We can take those one at a time or both together.
Okay. I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
Sure.
Not the whole thing, but the question part.
The question. So, is there an important piece of San Diego Pride history that you think more people should know about?
Oh yeah, about the early history. I think a lot of people don't know the early history. I'm going to try and show you this picture. I practiced a little bit with it. You can see this is a photograph of the first rally, and it was at Balboa Park, and we were in the site where the main stage is now. And there were probably about 200 or 300 people sitting on the grass. And that was the beginning of the rallies. And we had a couple of national speakers, and we had some local speakers, and a little bit of entertainment. But we had a good time. It was like a big picnic.
Was that the Barbara Giddings year?
I'm sorry?
Was that the Barbara Giddings year?
Yes, Barbara Giddings was the speaker, and she was my mentor getting into gay politics in the first place. I happened to be living in Philadelphia in 1970, and in 72 worked on their first Pride parade there, because some people had come down from New York, and they were going to all the major cities and saying, you should have a parade. You should have, well, actually they were marchers. A march is different than a parade. A march is demanding something, you got an issue And we're moving more into the parade aspect where it's a celebration.
So that first rally was 1975.
Yeah. Yeah, that was 45 years ago.
Yeah, and that was your first San Diego Pride, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it was, so San Diego Pride, right, had their first without a permit march in 1974, is as the history has it. And then, Jerry, you moved here, and you were part of the group, right, that got the permit and helped to really lead and kind of guide us towards that, right?
Well, getting the permit was kind of funny in a way, because the woman who went down there to get it, she was from Philadelphia, and in Philadelphia when we marched, they had a civil disobedience unit with the police department because they had a lot of demonstrations in Philadelphia. So she goes down to the San Diego police station and asks for the civil disobedience unit, and they looked at her like she'd lost her mind. They didn't know what to do. They sent her to the mounted police. But we finally did get our permit, yes.
So what is your favorite memory? So you've been working with San Diego Pride for 45 years. In those 45 years.
Well, it's kind of hard to think of a favorite memory. There's many good ones. You know, I think that it was probably one of my favorite moments was the fact that when we finally moved from an ad hoc committee every year, it was a different group of people. There were people who continued on, but every year was a different committee. And finally, in 1994, Doug Moore decided that we should have a regular body, or organizing body for the events. And so he called a bunch of us that had been working on the various marches before, and we put together a committee chaired by Scott Fulkerson and Chris Kehoe, and we were a program of the center. The center was the fiduciary responsible party, and in the second year, the group called the Normal People decided that they wanted to march in the LGBT Pride Parade. And they were sponsored by Roger Hedgecock, if some people will know that name. And they came and they got a permit and they filled it out, or an application rather, and they filled it out. And but at the very bottom, when you sign your name, it says, "I support the aims and goals of the San Diego Pride organization, blah, blah, blah." And they said, "Oh no, we can't sign that," because they didn't support the gay community at all. And they were the normal people. So we said, "Well, then you can't be in the parade." And they said, "Okay, we'll sue you." So they took us to court. They were took us to court and sue us for discriminating against them. Because that may have the judgment, we didn't know which way the judgment was going to go, so we separated ourselves from the center because they were the ones with all the money and we had none, so they could sue us and they wouldn't, they wouldn't get anything. And but the suit was thrown out of court. The judge said that they had no standing to sue us, and so there we were on our own as a committee, and that's when the board of Pride really was founded, and we hired our first director, Tim Williams. He was really a great guy.
Yeah. So the impetus for the split when Pride became its own organization was in part because in order to kind of save and keep the center protected, right?
I'm sorry, I missed part of that.
So the decision to make Pride its own, like, independent organization, separate from just a committee underneath the center, was to keep the center protected, keep those direct services able to continue going, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that part of our history, and you're right. I don't think a lot of people know, and I also think it's a little unique that we have our own organization, right? That we are our own thing. And so you only have a couple minutes left, but I just want to.
There's some noise in the background that's sounding
There's a
loud.
motorcycle going by. Okay. So with our couple of minutes left, what are to you, what is the significance of this rally, of the Spirit of Stonewall Rally?
Well, I think the rally, is a combination. At least in the early days, it was a chance to make a political statement. When most of our speakers were political speakers, and educate the community in San Diego. A lot of people within the gay and lesbian community weren't really that clear on what the issues were that we were fighting. So that was part of the rally. Another part was having a good time, because it usually turned into a picnic afterwards, because we were on that grassy knoll and just having a nice sunny day. But it was important, I think, and it eventually led to the uh, extended rally. Now it's a big celebration, and we have music, and we have a festival that goes with it, and that's all was all progressive, step by step by step, to get to where we are today.
Yes. And I am so glad that we are here and still able to do a thing despite the fact that we are in a pandemic, and you are safe at home, which I am very grateful for. I know that you were probably okay with coming out here and being among people. I was not okay with that for you. I want to keep my Jerry Dilno safe. So I thank you also for all of the work that you have done over your 45 years with San Diego Pride. And I am just so grateful for you and to have you in our San Diego world. So thank you, Jerry.
Well, I think that this morphed into a wonderful organization. I'm so proud and pleased to know young people like yourself are taking the reins and going full bore with it. It's
Yes.
it's quite a jump from what it was in those early days.
It is. Yes.
Yeah, and it's very gratifying to see.
I bet. Yeah. As somebody who was there at our little toddler birth of San Diego Pride, it means a lot that you are proud. So thank you. All right. Any last final words before we keep on going with our
Well,
pre-show?
I together we will rise, and there's some troubling times afoot, but we've met them before and prevailed, and I think we can do it again. Just everybody take care of yourself, have a good time, wear your mask, and keep your distance, and take care.
Thank you so much, Jerry. All right. So next up on our pre-show is a quick interview with Ben Nichols of the Hillcrest Business Association. Hi, Ben.
Hi.
All right.
How do you do?
Good. All right. So your mark is perfect right
spot.
there.
Okay.
We're good.
Good.
All right. So, hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Happy Pride Day.
Happy Pride. Happy Rally Day.
Yes.
I know this is way different than what our combined.
Normally I'm pretty busy running around, setting up the rally, setting up the block party.
Yeah. Not so much
Today.
but we're still here.
We're still here.
So glad we're still here. So I have a few questions for you. So I know our history, but I don't know that everyone knows our history between Pride and the Hillcrest Business Association. So if you can tell us a little bit about what is the Hillcrest Business Association and what's its relationship with the LGBTQ community.
Absolutely. So the Hillcrest Business Association is one of the oldest business associations in the city. Next year, 2021, will be our centenary year. We'll be 100 years old, so one of the oldest business associations. And over the years, we have engaged with the different communities that have been part of Hillcrest, and obviously the LGBT community is a critical part of the Hillcrest community today. And so over the recent history, we have really been engaged to try to make sure that the LGBT community feels at home here and is safe here. And Hillcrest Business has really led the way in making this neighborhood a place where LGBT people could be safe and feel safe, the nightclub community especially.
Yeah.
And then, so from there, we have continued to add to that. The Hillcrest Business Association has found ways to contribute to the community and build landmarks that say, hey, this is a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
This is one. The monument here tells the story of the LGBT community in Hillcrest, not San Diego, in Hillcrest. And that's really important to us. And then this year, we're excited to say we built the Rainbow Crosswalk.
Yes.
So we're really excited about that.
Yes. I love those rainbow crosswalks. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, whatever, it's a rainbow crosswalk. What's it really going to mean? But when we came for the unveiling, back when we were able to like be people together,
Yes.
It was really moving. And I also love that ours has a trans flag in it as well. I feel like that's really important.
Yeah, I was, when I first saw the design, I thought, just a lot of colors. And, you know, the part of me was like, that doesn't feel traditional. But then I looked at it again and I thought, it's right. It's got the right amount of colors and the colors are right.
Yes.
And so I'm really excited about the fact that we got a good representation. It's not the traditional flag, part of it is, but part of it is the other parts of the community that are so important.
Yeah. So I think that's actually a perfect segue
Yes.
into the thing that you shared with Fernando and I yesterday.
Yep.
So there's some changes
There is.
that are coming. Tell us more about those.
So this weekend we are going to fly the big flag, the big rainbow flag, the traditional 6-color flag that we normally fly. It's 20 by 30 feet. We'll fly that through Pride weekend. But on Monday, I'm enthusiastic for folks to tune in and watch as we raise a new Pride flag that will fly for the life of the flag. So it's 3 months, but it will be a flag that represents the traditional rainbow flag, but it will also have the diagonal flag, the colors, new colors, the brown, black, and then the transgender colors, blue, white. And so we're going to have a really nice new flag, and it's not going to fly for 1 weekend like we normally do for the alternate flags. It will fly for 3 months, which is the life of the flag. So we're really excited about that, and some people are excited to say, let's keep it going forever. Yeah. So we'll see if that happens.
Yeah, and I love that. And I love that flag. It's called the Progress flag, and the designer of it was
I'm not
Daniel Quasar.
Yes.
I'm probably saying their name incorrectly, but Quasar.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a flag that I think was just created a couple of years ago, maybe like 4 or 5 years at most. But that's one of those things about our community, right? Is that we do continue to evolve and change. And Hillcrest continues to evolve and change.
Absolutely.
And be inclusive of more folks.
So when we built this Pride flag pole 9 years ago now, there was a lot of debate, and some people fought against it. And it seems odd now to say that, but people fought against it. And so as time passes, we're really excited to continue to add to that and say, we want to continue to be representative of all the community as much as we can. And so we're excited to unveil this new flag on Monday and see how people like it. And we'll fly it for 3 months, and if people really like it and they jump on it, then we may fly it for them.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for that. And thank you so much for being here. Even though we're not having our usual block party, started with the rally, maybe next year, hopefully. But thank you so much for still being here with us. And Ben will be helping us because it's a struggle to get the flag up and hoisted
Yes.
up at the end when we actually hoist the rainbow flag. So thank you.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Yes. All right. So now I'm going to turn it over to kind of myself in a voiceover talking about our Pride Youth Marching Band.
Spirit of Stonewall Rally.
You've gotten feedback
Youth
that you're
band
doing great.
performing their rendition of Somewhere Over the Rainbow has become just what we listen to as the giant rainbow flag raises over Hillcrest. They are working on a virtual band performance that will be released later this summer, and you'll hear more directly from the director, Russ Sperling, during Pride Live tomorrow. But I personally can't have a rally without some youth band magic. So here's a little bit from years past. Let's take a listen.
All right. Oh, Lord, how I miss that band in person. So as Jerry talked about earlier, the rally is where we come back to those roots of Stonewall as action and as that kind of like political speakers, political action, and we get to harness that political power of the LGBTQ community. So talking to us more about that as we end our pre-show and get ready for the main rally, our Pride's own Olga Cortez and Nolan Golden. Okay. Do you want me to take over? So that should be like 5 minutes. 5.
Do it.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Olga Cortez, pronouns she, they, he, and I do civic engagement for San Diego Pride.
And hello, I am Nolan Golden, pronouns they, them, theirs, and I am the newest education and advocacy intern with San Diego Pride.
Well, today we're going to be talking about voting for the 2020 election coming up November 3rd and the 2020 census. Nolan, why is voting important, and why is it so important to vote specifically as an LGBTQ person?
Well, voting is your voice and determines what kinds of people are in power to make what kinds of policies. I think someone's really excited about voting, Olga, because that's what I'm hearing in your background, especially because over the past several election cycles, LGBTQ people and our allies have been exerting more and more political power, dramatically altering the political landscape. Today, there are 9 million LGBTQ voters registered to vote nationwide who will play a decisive role in the upcoming elections and who will overwhelmingly support pro-equality candidates.
Awesome. Now, how can folks register to vote, and how can we check if we're already registered?
So it only takes 5 minutes, and you can do it online at sdvote.com. That's sdvote.com. The only item you need is either the last 4 digits of your social security number or California ID number.
So in California, a vote by mail ballot will be mailed to each voter prior to the November 3rd election. In addition to offering in-person voting locations, when will I receive my ballot?
So likely the first week of October, but we will be reaching out to our supporters with more information as it becomes available. So don't worry, we'll talk more about volunteering later.
And where can I return my ballot?
Postage free, girl. You can mail your ballot back for free or drop it off at any polling location or registrar's office on election day.
Thank you, Nolan. And we're going to be doing some outreach to get out the vote. How can folks volunteer to help make sure our community votes?
Great question. You can help remotely by sending text messages or calling supporters of San Diego Pride and the Center. You can sign up to volunteer by reaching out to vote@sdpride.org or civic engagement at the center sd.org. Thank you, Olga. This was really great. But there's one more thing I think we should really talk about, and that is the 2020 census. Can we still do the census? And like how we do that? How we do that?
Yes, we can still do the census. The new deadline is October 31st, and you can complete it online by telephone or via mail. The census happens every 10 years, and this is the first census to go digital.
Well, what if I didn't receive my census in the mail and I don't have my unique census ID?
Well, even if you didn't receive it in the mail, you can still respond without a census ID. Just click on, if you don't have a census ID, click here, and you'll be linked with your address.
All right, that all sounds great, but Why is it important for every one of us to complete the 2020 census?
Well, it's super important for every one of us to complete the census so that we have an accurate and complete population count. This data is used to make sure everyone is equally represented in our political system and that government resources are allocated fairly. The census data determines how many congressional seats a state receives, how much federal funding will be allocated to local communities for programs and projects, ranging from early childhood education to senior nutrition. And it provides a picture of the changing demographics of the country.
And who gets counted?
Everyone gets counted. The census counts all people who reside in the US regardless of citizenship or immigration status.
Well, what questions does the census ask?
The census will ask your name, sex, age, date of birth, race, ethnicity, as well as those details for everyone in your household. All information is your own self-identified information, including name, race, ethnicity, and gender identity.
And what are the gender options?
Well, like many surveys, the census restricts responses to male and female only. Unfortunately, this question fails to acknowledge the myriad of sexes and genders that exist. You can self-identify in the way that feels most comfortable for you, but the Census Bureau will not cross-reference individuals' answers on the census with any other documentation.
All right, well, is the census like, can a U.S. Census Bureau worker share my information?
Well, Title 13 requires your information to be kept confidential and prevents your responses from being used against you by any government agency. It's illegal for them to share your information. The U.S. Census Bureau workers who have access to your personal information are sworn for life to confidentiality and are subject to a $250,000 fine and or up to 5 years in federal prison for wrongful disclosure of information.
Well, thanks, Olga. You can go to my2020census.gov to fill out the census today.
Thank you, Nolan.
My name is Jeremy Payne. I work with Equality California. It's hard to overstate how much is at risk through the 2020 census for the LGBTQ community. The LGBTQ community has disparities that are far greater than our non-LGBTQ peers.
My name is Adrienne Roy, and I work with Equality California. The stakes become very clear that if we don't get an accurate count, we won't get the resources we need for our community.
And you know what's going to happen if people don't get counted? Our community will lose $2,000 per person. Over 10 years, that's $20,000.
That's $20,000 that comes back to our community, to our LGBTQ community, to our Black community, to our communities of color, to our rural communities. These are resources that go to our roads, to our schools, to our hospitals. That matters.
I know a lot of this is going to be virtual, so people can actually get counted on their cell phone, on their computer, but they have to know that. If we're not counted, that money is not going to come to our communities. That money is going to go to other states. And that's our money. That's our money that we paid in federal taxes.
Frankly, that's why my jam is getting out and talking to folks.
Equality California wanted to make sure that we were involved in doing our part so that we all will be counted.
Hi, and happy Pride. Before we get started, we wanted to offer an Indigenous land acknowledgement for the land on which we gather and are live streaming to you from. To offer this land acknowledgement, I turn it over to Kenny Ramos from the Barona Band of Mission Indians.
Hauka Menuea, Memayuta Menue, Inyach Kenny Ramos, Wichihi, Inyanue, Wichihi Benegas, Napum Welch, Kwashamak Barona, Indian Reservation, Kupai. Hello, and may the fire in your heart continue to burn. My name is Kenny Ramos, and I'm Degenyo Ipai Kumiai from the Brona Band of Mission Indians, and I grew up on the Brona Indian Reservation in East County. Piyi Ipai Tipai Amat Kohan. This is beautiful Kumiai land. Since time immemorial, the Kumiai have stewarded this land, which has sustained us for thousands of years. Today, the Kumiai Nation is comprised of 13 individual tribal communities throughout San Diego and 4 more in northern Baja California. San Diego County is actually home to 18 Indian reservations, the highest concentration of tribal nations in the entire country, and we continue to defend our sovereignty and protect our unceded territory today. Even this morning, my relatives were defending our homeland from further desecration to build the border wall. While this land acknowledgement will not dismantle white supremacist settler colonial institutions, I hope it will encourage you to seek out the Indigenous peoples whose lands you currently occupy, wherever you are, and to start building relationships with us and our communities as we begin to work toward and build a more just and equitable society for everyone. We are still here, and we will always be here. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoy the spirit of the Stonewall Rally. Happy Pride, Iehan.
All right. Thank you so much, Kenny. My name is Jen LaBarbara, and I'm proud to officially welcome y'all to this virtual Spirit of Stonewall Rally. This year, in honor of the Black trans women we've lost in just the past 7 months, and in honor of the Black folks, my people, that are still being targeted by police brutality across the country, and in honor of the movement for Black lives, we're going to change things up a little bit in the song that we used to open our rally. Coming up in a moment is our friend Corey Gillis, whose voice always gives me chills, offering up the balm and power of the Black National Anthem. As Corey performs this year, our Pride Military Department has provided plainclothes veterans and active duty service members to stand behind this gorgeous man, to stand behind this Black National Anthem, to present some of the colors of our country, of what our country could be. First, though, we honor and remember the 26 trans siblings we have lost just this year in 2020, and then we'll hand it off to Corey. Note, though, that this video was recorded last week. We have since learned of another death of our trans sibling, Marilyn Cazares, here in our backyard, just over in Imperial Valley.
Captain Parker, Nelisa Luciano Ruiz, Yampi Mendez Arocho, John Scott DeVore, Scotland Kelly DeVore, Monica Diamond, Lexi Ebony Sutton, Lorena Borjas, Henrietta Robinson, Joanna Metzger, Penelope Diaz Ramirez, Serena Angelique Velasquez Ramos, Leila Pelaez Sanchez, Nina Pop, Helly Jo Reagan, Jane Thompson, Tony McDade, Selena Reyes Hernandez, Dominique Remy Fells, Rhea Milton, Bryla Stone, Drea McCarty, Mercy Mack, Tatiana Hall, Shaki Peters, Bree Black, Summer Taylor.
Reason, color. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoice along the hope that the present has brought us, facing the rising sun, abandon begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Color guard, order, colors. Color guard, red, red, forward, forward. Hola, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Fernando López. Soy el director ejecutivo de Orgullo San Diego. Hello and good evening. My name is Fernando Lopez. I am the executive director of San Diego Pride. And welcome to our virtual or streaming Spirit of Stonewall Rally. This week, yet another trans woman of color was murdered. This time in my home county, Imperial County. Her name was Marilyn Caceres, and I would like to take this moment in silence to remember her and all of the lives that have been taken from us too soon this year. This year has been unimaginably devastating. The losses our community and the world have endured at the hands of a global pandemic, police violence, and the ongoing epidemic level murder of our trans siblings has shaken us to our core. The work that we have ahead of us can seem too heavy to bear. Finding cause to celebrate or allow ourselves to lean into joy can almost seem like an impossible task. But that is why we have pride. We don't have pride because we are free and equal. We have pride because we are not. We have pride because a group of young rebels fought back against police brutality and said no for 3 days. We fought back against legal and systemic and ongoing brutality and discrimination, and that is why we have pride. 1 year after that act in 1969, our movement came together in solidarity to combat the fear, shame, stigma, and ongoing oppression that our community faced at that time, and we continue to have pride because we are still facing that today. If we are going to create a more equitable world, we must first strip away the systemic barriers that are in our way. And it is time to rebuild. We have to rebuild trust in one another, trust in science, trust in a nation whose promise of liberty and justice for all is still unmet, and trust in ourselves to know what is right and fair and just. Some moments on this path are going to be hard. They already are, and they have been. But we cry out for justice now as we have before, but louder and stronger and powerful enough that it actually seems like some folks are paying attention. We spoke out in protest this year like we never have before. We raged and we grieved and we mourned and we yelled our pain into the sky. And our protest is not done. Our work is not done. Because we will protest with our dollars, and we will riot with our votes, and we will march in the streets and knock on doors for the sake of our future, and we will lift our voices to the phones and call out for our dreams to be answered, and we will fight with and for love. Pride is not canceled, and this pride is definitely not canceled. In-person mass gatherings are canceled for the safety and the health of our community and our movement and this entire planet. Because I'll tell you, one loss is one loss too many, and we have lost too many. Nothing can deny us our pride, the pride we've built in ourselves, in our community, or this world. So we're still going to find a way to raise these flags, and we're about to raise this one. We are going to celebrate the vibrancy of our community, and we will bring light to the issues that our community continues to face, and we will pursue justice with joy. And that is how together we will rise. It is my honor and privilege to welcome two incredible co-chairs of San Diego Pride, Nick Serrano and Sue Hartman.
Well, thank you so much, Fernando. Fernando has been a tremendous leader for San Diego Pride, and I think the words that he just spoke right now are clearly evidence of that. My name is Nick Serrano. I have the tremendous honor of serving as the board co-chair for San Diego Pride. And as you can all tell, Pride is very different this year. It looks different. It certainly feels different. And, you all aren't here physically with us, but I know that you're with us and you're watching. It was very important to Pride that we have this show go on because, as Fernando said, Pride is not canceled. Our Pride can never be canceled. But what was important to this board and this organization and our staff was the fact that we put this on in the best way that we know how. And so that's why I wanted to start this off right now by saying thank you to my colleagues on the board of directors, the entire staff at San Diego Pride, Fernando, Alex, Serafina, Jen, Mel, all the rest who do incredible work year-round, and this year have really stepped up to change course in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of a social crisis, and make sure that we put this on in the right way. And so it is now my honor to introduce my colleague on the board of directors, my fellow co-chair. She is a phenomenal woman, a phenomenal leader for this organization. Please join me in welcoming my colleague, Sue Hartman.
Thank you, Nick. Nick and I are so proud of what San Diego Pride has done year-round, and we're so excited to have this opportunity to stand before you at the 2020 Spirit of Stonewall Rally, even if it looks a little bit different than normal. We wish you all could be here to cheer on these amazing awardees, but feel free to go ahead and stand up and give a big round of applause from your home. First up, we have the Stonewall Community Service Award, which goes to Damon J. Scherer. Damon's journey in civil engagement began early. In college, he co-founded Unlearn Week, a series of lectures and workshops on anti-racist practices and challenging institutional racism. While living in Japan, he openly advocated for the destigmatization of same-sex marriage and HIV/AIDS statuses. Upon moving to San Diego, Damon advocated for the repeal of Prop 8 for months in front of grocery and department stores. As a theater teacher, he focuses on bringing theater to communities of color, incarcerated populations, and youth throughout the country. Like many others, Damon joined the San Diego Black LGBTQ Coalition in search of connection with other queer Black folks. This year marks his second term as coalition president. Under his leadership, the coalition has become a hub for queer Black life in San Diego, a fierce advocate for the Black LGBTQIA+ community. Congratulations, Damon.
Up next is our Stonewall Service Award. This year, the award goes to Casa Arco Iris. Casa Arco Iris opened its shelter for LGBTQ migrants in February 2019 after months of a migratory crisis that completely inundated Tijuana's social services. They also provide psychological and medical support, social services, and legal services from LGBTQ+ professionals. Casa Arco Iris, their work would not be done while the border stands. Many forget that the border does more than prohibit some from crossing it. It reshapes our reimagining of the world and how relationships happen across it. They are grateful that many resist this idea. They see their success as a testimony to the power of grassroots activists to create long-standing, binational solidarity projects. Please consider contributing or sharing the work Casa Arco Iris does, and consider supporting an LGBTQ+ asylum seeker as they build a new, safer life in the United States. Thank you, and congratulations to Casa Arco Iris.
Our next award is the Inspirational Relationship Award, which goes to Joyce Merritt and Linda Barafaldi. Joyce and Linda were born a block and a half from each other in a small town in Massachusetts. After being in different circles most of their lives, they fell in love in graduate school and married in 2008. Moving to San Diego, they opened the Amazon Sweet Shop, a political activism cell masquerading as an ice cream store. Linda eventually went on to work at the San Diego LGBT Center. Joyce served on the Stepping Stone board during the Capitol campaign and the new recovery homes construction. She then became CEO of the GSDBA, the Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, and facilitated its growth in membership and financial stability. Since retiring, they both have continued to donate, demonstrate, and advocate for justice for all. What an inspirational power couple. Congratulations, Joyce and Linda.
Our next award is the Stonewall Philanthropy Award, which is going to John Ely. John Ely is the owner of a restaurant group that includes San Diego restaurant Harley Gray Kitchen and Bar. I know I've certainly been there on a Saturday and Sunday. Ever since his opening his first restaurant, giving back has been a part of his personal and business life. Almost since its inception, he has been an advocate for the Trevor Project, serving on its board of development and hosting fundraisers. He is a proud sponsor and donor of the San Diego Gay Men's Chorus, the Center's Thanksgiving Feast, and Tantrums and Tiaras. His business participates in Dining Out for Life and the San Diego AIDS Walk. He initiated annual donations of Padre tickets for Out at the Park and the Gay Youth Development Center, the Gay Youth Development Department at the Center. In the face of the pandemic, Harley Gray donated meals to local industry workers in the community and the Scripps Hospital ER. Congratulations and thank you, John.
Next up is our Friend of Pride Award to stalwart allies and community leaders that have always stood strong in supporting the LGBTQ community, David and Jessica Meyer. As District Director of Congresswoman Susan Davis, Jessica is responsible for, among many other things, advising Davis on LGBTQ issues. Jessica's work under federal officials include a long history of commitment to LGBTQ advocacy, including advocacy work for LGBTQ migrants and members of the armed services. As Director of Community Affairs for UC San Diego Health, David has been instrumental in the system's LGBTQ initiative success, like its annual Hillcrest Medical Center Pride's Month lighting. David also serves on their LGBTQ+ Health Leaders Advisory Committee, working with physicians towards establishing a multi-specialty transgender clinic. The Meyers are most proud, however, of their work advocating for equitable and inclusive policies and practices. Both are active members of the Stonewall Citizens Patrol and Mana de San Diego, and both are involved in the Hillcrest Town Council. Congratulations, Jessica and David.
All right. So thank you all so much, Sue and Nick, and congratulations to all of our awardees. Quick plug that all of these folks did extended interviews with us over the past 2 months, and all of those longer interviews can be found at sdpride.org/live. Some of our speakers for this year's rally, since this year's rally is a bit different, are taking a bit of a different approach than just standing at a mic and talking at you. Our good friends and incredible advocates, Meredith Vizina and Ellen Holzman, have been acting as hosts for transgender asylum seekers for over a year. I am proud to introduce you to Meredith and Ellen and to 3 of the women they've hosted in their homes through this video.
Hi, everyone. My name is Meredith, and this is my wife, Ellen Holcomb.
We've been together for 27 years. We're retired and live in Julian. In the summer of 2018, we heard about the caravan of migrants coming from Central America.
We owe our activism to Donald Trump, who spent the months before the 2018 midterm elections vilifying immigrants, calling them rapists and criminals, so we knew we had to take some sort of action.
We discovered there were trans women in New Mexico who needed sponsors so they could live freely while pursuing asylum, the way millions of refugees have throughout our country's history.
In January 2019, Miles for Migrants flew an asylum seeker to San Diego, and at the airport, we met Grace.
Mi nombre es Gay, soy de Honduras. Mi primer día fuera de detención fue muy emocionante y muy feliz. Afuera encontré muchas personas que me ayudaron. Una de ellas son Ellen y Meredith. Ellas ayudan a la comunidad trans en general. Para mi futuro deseo seguir estudiando y seguir avanzando en este país. Happy Pride, everyone.
Grace is now living independently in San Diego, and she works and studies English and computer skills while pursuing her asylum.
While Grace was living with us, we learned about the LGBTQ asylum seekers in detention at Otay Mesa, a prison near the international border. Thanks to the generosity of our community, we were able to send money to the dozens of trans and gay asylum seekers at Otay Mesa so they could call home, write letters, and purchase warm clothes, grooming aids, and snacks from the prison commissary. One of those trans women is Catalina.
Tengan todos un lindo día. Mi nombre es Catalina Sandoval. Cuando yo salí de detención me sentía con muchas emociones revueltas, tanto como un temor de no saber qué haría. Y pues hasta el momento yo vivo actualmente en San Diego, California, y por el momento aún no me he adaptado al 100% que se diga por falta de trabajo de tiempo completo, pero espero en Dios todo sea bueno para mí. La verdad estoy muy feliz y contenta de estar libre y disfrutando de una nueva vida.
Catalina won her asylum in September 2019. She was released in the middle of the night at the San Ysidro Transit Center. Minority Humanitarian Foundation provided an Uber that scooped her off the streets and brought Catalina to our home.
Just a couple of weeks after Catalina came to us, we met Andrea.
Hola, soy Andrea López de Guatemala y pues mi experiencia en los Estados Unidos hasta el momento todo ha marchado muy bien. He conseguido un empleo donde he sido contratada como contratista y pues voy a aprovechar esta oportunidad mientras que consigo un empleo fijo. Le doy muchas gracias a Helen y a Meredith por la gran oportunidad que me han dado de convivir con ellas. Han sido parte de mi vida y una gran familia. Muchas gracias.
Andrea was also jailed at Otay Mesa, was granted asylum, and like Catalina, found herself on the streets of San Diego in the middle of the night. We were happy to have her join us. Catalina and Andrea received money from our community fundraisers to help them get their start, and a lesbian activist, Coyote Moon, offered to give them a launching pad in her home. That was in November 2019. Catalina and Andrea are now living independently in San Diego and are working and seeking permanent, stable jobs.
Grace, Catalina, and Andrea, and other trans women we have hosted, have made great strides since leaving detention. But they still need support and guidance from the community with jobs and skills to help them navigate in their new country. We've learned that by coming together with these trans women immigrants and our LGBTQ community, that it's only together that we rise.
This experience has been extremely humbling. These young women shared their stories about the humiliation and the dangers they faced in their home countries. the trials of their journey north, and the indignities of being incarcerated in a U.S. prison, even though they have not committed any crimes. This led us, time and time again, to reflect on our own privilege.
Our experience of hosting asylum seekers has also been fulfilling. Having them around the house, playing music, singing, joking with us and with each other, sharing meals, watching movies together, has brought us tremendous joy and fun.
In the roughly 18 months we have been doing this, we've come to realize that asylum is an LGBT issue. And together we rise. Black Lives Matter.
Freedom.
On Wednesday, at the Light Up the Cathedral event at St. Paul's Cathedral, the Light of Pride Award was given to the Reverend Dr. J. Lee Hill of Christian Fellowship Congregational Church, United Church of Christ in Emerald Hills. He's been doing the work of bringing faith, social justice, and inclusivity together for years, and we're grateful to have him on our side. Congratulations, Reverend Hill. I am also so honored to present the Champion of Pride Award to someone who's been working alongside and for transgender youth for years. This is an award that goes to an individual who has demonstrated outstanding leadership in the LGBT community over an extended period of years with consideration to service to San Diego Pride. Bixby Moreno Kigby is a queer, non-binary trans person who has worked in mental health care for 15 years as a licensed clinical social worker. In 2015, Bixby joined the San Diego LGBT Community Center as Director of Behavioral Health Services. There, Bixby championed the needs of trans and non-binary people and led a team of clinicians providing an outpatient therapy to LGBTQIA people and to individuals impacted by HIV/AIDS. In 2019, Bixby became the first ever program director for Grady's Children's Hospital for gender-affirming care. In this role, Bixby tirelessly works to expand services, opening a new clinic, providing a continuum of care for trans and non-binary youth, and implementing gender-affirming training across the healthcare system. Congratulations once again, Bixby.
All right. Congrats, Bix. You're one of my favorite people. I now have the honor of giving the briefest of introductions to someone who really deserves a much longer intro than I'm able to give y'all right now. Our next speaker, Kira Johnson, is the Deputy Executive Director at the National LGBTQ Task Force and has a long career of organizing, advocacy, and leadership in the LGBTQ and reproductive justice worlds. I actually first met Kira what feels like a million years ago when I was a baby organizer in reproductive justice, and they were what I aspired to be, a strong, empathetic, and brilliant leader. I am so elated to be able to welcome Kira Johnson to our virtual stage all the way from DC.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be with you here today. We shall overcome someday. I'd like to think that that day is today, our day in our lifetimes. Good evening, San Diego and all of California. I want to say hello to my grandparents and the Solomon family in Long Beach. And happy Pride! I am so honored to join San Diego Pride for this year's Pride Rally. I want to give a specific shout out to Jen LaBarbera and Fernando Lopez for welcoming this Southern-born, DC-based queer femme woman to join this West Coast family reunion. As we meditate on and celebrate Pride, we are reminded of the birth of our modern day movement, a movement born out of the sparks of the Stonewall uprising. Queer people fighting back after relentless harassment by the police. 5 decades later, we are still fighting, and fighting honoring spirits gone too soon. Sylvia Rivera, Marsha P. Johnson, Victoria Cruz, and so many others. And today, as the nation and the world rise again like the tide during a full moon, we say no more to racism, and we honor new names of spirits taken too soon. George Floyd, Tony McCabe, Eric Garner, Ayanna Dior, Nina Pop, Monica Diamond, a seemingly endless list. But now is the time, as they did, to rise up and to speak up and own our own power. Queer and trans people, Black and brown people, poor people, folks with disabilities, we have never had access to the power that belongs to us. Our democracy was supposed to be built to serve the people, but it has always served the wrong people. Not the people who need it, but the people who own it. If the last 4 months have taught me anything, it's that we need to claim our power now more than ever. We are living in a time of crisis, a global pandemic, a historic economic downturn, a time of many questions and what seems like far too few answers. And yet, we are the answer we've been waiting for. We have long looked to others to lead us to justice, into salvation, and to the truth. But it is each of us that carries a piece of the answer, a piece of the map that will lead us to true transformational change. Without you, your presence, your action, your ideas, your focus, your creativity, we will never get to where we need to go. Now is a time to lead. Now is your time to lead, to speak up, to do all we can, to make things count. We know we have to fight oppressions from every angle. We must march in the streets. We must hold lawmakers accountable. But this time and this opportunity is about something so much bigger. It is about claiming, reclaiming, and rebuilding our very democracy. It is a time to rebuild these systems in a way that serves us. Black lives matter. Our lives matter. And it is long past time that our democracy looked like us and served us. One way we can make democracy serve us better is by getting counted. And I encourage you all to please take the census. The government uses the census to say how many people represent us in our democracy. If we don't get counted, we can't get served. Many folks don't realize how important it is for queer people, even though there is but one LGBTQ related question to respond to the census. So let me give you a couple of little tidbits that hopefully will make the census a little bit sexier for you and inspire you to take it. The census is used to figure out how much money to give each state for programs we need, from food stamps, public housing, to Medicaid for the next 10 years. That means that as we are trying to recover from COVID-19, the programs that are supposed to be our safety nets won't get enough funding if we don't get counted. And we know who's going to benefit, and we know who is going to be harmed. We know those in power are perfectly happy to have us sit out of the census, just like they're happy when we can't vote or we can't afford to run for office. They want the status quo to stay the status quo, but we won't let that happen. because we know our lives matter. Black lives matter. Trans lives matter. And we are going to claim our democracy, claim our power, and demand what we need. I'm asking all of you today to stay engaged, to help us reclaim our democracy. March with us and call your members of Congress. Fill out your census, then ask 5 people you know if they filled out their census, and then turn 10 people out to vote. If you'd like more information about Queer the Census, you can visit the website queerthecensus.org. Together, we can claim our power. Together, we can make sure we get counted. Together, we can honor those who fought at Stonewall over 50 years ago, and those who have filled the streets in pride and protest every day after. To end, I leave you with a quote from the book, A Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. I realize I don't know very much. None of us knows very much, but we can all learn more. Then we can teach one another. We can stop denying reality or hoping it will go away by magic. Thank you so much for having me. Happy Pride, and I hope to see all of you magical people in the streets sometime soon. Happy Pride, San Diego.
Thank you so much, Kiara. We at San Diego Pride want to acknowledge how our society could not function without the essential workers who, in the face of an unprecedented challenge, risk their lives every day for us. In understanding this, we're honored to bestow the award of Community Grand Marshal on the entirety of our essential workers this year. Any and all of the workers, from the service industry to the healthcare industry, that ensure that we are still able to get our food, our water, our electricity, our sanitation services, our medical treatment, our news and information. The 2020 Community Grand Marshal Award goes to all LGBTQ+ essential workers amidst this global pandemic. Thank you all so much for what you do. We are proud of you, and we look forward to thanking you in person once it is safe to do so.
All right. Congratulations once more to all of our 2020 Spirit of Stonewall awardees. Yay! Our next speaker is one that those of you local San Diegans may know well. Rabbi Lori Koski is a passionate advocate for workers' rights, women's and LGBTQIA+ rights, and racial equality. She was among the early trailblazers of women in the clergy and was ordained as a rabbi at Hebrew Union College. She came to San Diego as a newly ordained rabbi in the mid-1980s and began officiating same-sex commitment ceremonies at a time when the laws lagged far behind justice. Today, Rabbi Lori continues her urban ministry dedicated to diminishing poverty in San Diego through workforce development as the executive director of San Diego's Continuing Education Foundation. Lori, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jen, and happy Pride. What gorgeous energy we have here together this evening. I'm Rabbi Lori Koski, and I am a proud member of the San Diego LGBTQIA+ community. Friday evenings are the Jewish Sabbath. On the Sabbath, we imagine a perfect world, a world filled with dignity, love, joy, empathy, equity, justice, peace, and abundance for all. Every Friday, we imagine that world filled with dignity and love, empathy and justice, equity, peace, and abundance for everyone. In these times, it is a stretch to imagine the world this way. Still, Pride affirms that we are the ones who are creating that world right here and right now. I was asked to speak to you tonight about anti-Semitism and white supremacy. These are painful realities. Social scientists tell us that there is return to institutional anti-Semitism that hasn't been seen in the world since the 1930s and hasn't been seen in the United States like this ever. So too do experts say there are a number of indicators that suggest white nationalism and white supremacy and violence inspired by them are on the rise here in the United States and around the world. We learn that there is a surge in transgender hate crimes by more than 37% in 1 year. We must pause right now, right here, to remember 6 African American transgender women who were found dead in the last 3 weeks alone. Violent hate crimes in the United States have reached their highest levels in many years. Nearly 1 in 5 hate crimes is motivated by anti-LGBTQ bias. And in hate crimes fueled by racism, African Americans continue to be the most frequently targeted. Boy, do we know that. Black lives matter. And as the Episcopal Church on 30th Street says, Black lives are beloved to all of us. I recently read about a couple who live in St. Louis. They held guns at a Black Lives Matter peaceful protest last month. They had attempted to create policies that wouldn't allow LGBTQIA folks to live in their neighborhood. And they trespassed onto synagogue property in order to commit a hate crime. These people were full service haters, and sadly, they are not alone. We should still be shocked that the president of our country empowers and emboldens these haters. Hate leads to hate, and hate leads to violence. So what do we do with the weight of despair and our pain? Well, we come together tonight. We come with love, lots of love, a rainbow of love. We come tonight in love and we come with pride. So how are we to neutralize these haters? We vote in November and we engage with everyone we know in our state and everywhere in the country to be sure that they vote. We talk to our families who may vote differently than us, and we urge them to see the world from our eyes too. We speak our truth out loud, even when it's hard, even when it takes courage. And we organize. Find a campaign that calls to you and give your time and your treasure. Make of this time of COVID something extraordinary for you by joining one of the 4 advocacy committees of Pride San Diego. Join the Black Coalition, the Latinx Coalition, the Capimeda Coalition, and the Interfaith Coalition. All you have to do is go to sdpride.org and sign up. We don't even have to leave our homes to make a difference and to turn the arc of our country back toward love. We don't have to be isolated, powerless, or depressed. We ourselves can take action. I wish you a pride filled with dignity and love, joy and empathy, justice, equity, peace, and abundance for all. And I wish all of us the will to banish the hate through our own actions and our own actions now.
Thank you to Rabbi Lori Kosky for her powerful words. Our next speaker really doesn't need an introduction. He was my city council member. He was my interim mayor, and he is currently my assembly member. Please welcome the incredible Todd Gloria.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fernando, and happy Pride, San Diego. I'm so proud to be here with you all today as your state assembly member. and as my friend Fernando mentioned, your former city council member, council president, and interim mayor. You know, as I said before, and has been said many times this afternoon, Pride is very different this year. It looks different, it feels different, and importantly, our focus this year is different. Our focus as a community is on the racial injustices that have plagued this nation for 400 years. Our focus is on Black lives. Our focus is on Black trans lives, because Black lives and Black trans lives matter. Now, for generations, our Black community has been fighting for respect, humanity, and opportunity, the opportunity they deserve in this country. And we know that our Black trans community has and continues to face unspeakable discrimination and violence throughout our community, throughout our country, around the world. So we must remember the origins of Pride were about fighting for civil rights, the rights of queer people to just simply be in this nation. And Pride has continued since that time to be a way for all of us to celebrate how far we have come and to recommit to the work that still lies ahead. This is the work that we must take up now. While we can't meet as we normally would, we have to commit, as we always have, to doing more of the hard work to create a community that is more equal, that is more just, that is more fair. And now is the time that we must carry that banner, not just for ourselves, but for our allies in the Black community that has for a long time stood with us. We now must stand with them. So it's in that vein that it's important that we center our voices on the Black community, which is why I am so proud to be here to introduce our keynote speaker, my colleague, California State Assemblymember, Dr. Shirley Weber. Now, I may not need an introduction, but she surely doesn't either, no pun intended. Dr. Shirley Weber is an incredible human being. And if you were as lucky as me to get to work with her every day, to watch her as the true educator that she is. She's a legislator and she passes some pretty important laws, but she educates the entire state on issues of justice and of equity and of race. That most recently is seen in her passage of the historic Assembly Bill 392. She's continuing that work now with ACA 5, which I imagine she may talk to you a word or two about. I was happy to be given this opportunity to introduce her because anyone who knows that you want to speak before Dr. Shirley Weber, not after her. And so it is in the vein of a community that is focused and centered on the Black community, a community that is committed to make sure that people know that Black lives matter and Black trans lives matter, that I'm proud to introduce my friend, our ally, the fierce, the fabulous, the incredible Assemblymember Dr. Shirley Weber. Shirley, take it away.
Yay! Woo!
Happy Pride Month.
Oh, great.
I am so humbled and honored to ask me to create a video.
Yeah.
You and congratulating you on a long journey of struggle, 50 years of working tirelessly to make sure that we all have an opportunity and access. You know, my involvement with the LGBT community goes way back to activities at San Diego State University in the 70s and the 80s. And my involvement on the school board in trying to create great policies and programs for young people who were struggling with their identity and trying to make sure that we all felt safe. You know, I can remember all of the attacks on individuals in the various portions of San Diego, and us coming together for various rallies to say, wait a minute, this isn't fair. This needs to be addressed. And we need to, as the public, step up and be involved and concerned. So my journey in this arena of social justice and equality is a long journey, a journey that began with my father when he was threatened by the Klan when I was just a little kid. And his passion and desire for social justice and equality and dignity and pride in himself. Those kinds of things are embedded in me as a kid. And as a result, come out when I have to fight for justice and fight for equality, because I know just how important it is and what happens when you are denied that opportunity. So that when I went to the legislature, I went there fully aware that I had a responsibility to make sure that every child and every person in this nation has a chance for equal opportunity and access. And I've tried to reflect that in my life and in the things that I do at the Capitol that make a difference for so many people. You know, we've done a number of pieces, whether it's racial profiling, whether it's dealing with the issues of courts and social justice, whether making our prisons be more rehabilitative versus just punishment places, to rebuild lives and to bring back our children, our families better than when they went in. And we're still fighting that battle each and every day right now. But I was grateful that I've always had you as a partner, somebody who understood the challenge, understood what we were trying to accomplish, and worked alongside of me to make a difference. This past year, when we passed AB 392, it was a difficult bill to pass because people didn't want to believe that there was actual police brutality of that level, that we needed to really define when lethal force should be used. Most folks thought everybody's reasonable, that we all understand that that is a force that should never be used unless it is absolutely necessary and that it actually saves people's lives. It was hard to tell folks that because many had never had the experience that I've had and that many of you've had in dealing with law enforcement, that sometimes is very narrow in its perspective of us. Not all of them, but many of them, and just enough to make a difference, just enough to have a negative impact on communities. And so it was difficult constantly telling the stories of my son and my grandson and others who have been negatively impacted by it. But it became so essential and so necessary that I do that, driven by my passion for justice and equality, and surrounded by the support of you and all of those social justice advocates to try to make a difference. We are still struggling with those issues today. And as I look back on the last year, I realized that what we did together in 392 was forward thinking, that others now are attempting to copy what we've done. But that's okay because they need to. They need to make the standards of when our law enforcement uses lethal force a standard that is a statewide standard and a national standard. And we're still working on other things that will make a difference. But it's been a journey. It's been quite a journey, and you've been there with me, and I appreciate that so much. This year is no exception. You know, every time I turn around when I think I'm gonna take a deep breath and relax, somebody brings me something new. Somebody brings me something that obviously that they feel only I can do, and I think others can, but they say, no, this has to be what we want you to do. And that was basically ACA 5, which was the dealing with the issue of affirmative action and equal opportunity and access. And once again, I said to myself, how are people going to believe and understand how important it is to have opportunity and how unequal the world is? And simply saying to us, oh, everybody can be free now. You can be judged by the content of your character versus the color of your skin, that I heard people say over and over at the Capitol as a reason why they should not vote for ACA 5. And it was interesting because I had to remind them that if they really, really understood that quote that King made, they would know that it was made in a dream speech, the I Have a Dream speech, and that it was aspirational. It is what we want to achieve. But meanwhile, while we're on the road, we have to deal with the injustices and the inequality and the lack of opportunity for so many young people in this nation. And we have to be the ones to fight to make it happen. And so I was wondering, I said, how am I going to explain this to those whose lives have not been impacted as mine have, been impacted by the lack of opportunity, by poor quality education, and yet still wanting to be able to move forward with my life and have a chance to always go back and rebuild and to be a part of the system? How am I going to explain that to people? And then George Floyd died. George Floyd died while everybody in America watched, and they watched it over and over again. And it became a reminder. Yes, we believe that everyone should be judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. We believe that in our hearts. But the reality is that does not exist today. And we have to do something. We must do something immediately to make sure that everyone in this country has a sense of opportunity and fairness and justice. And that requires us to do the hard work. And so when I went back to Sacramento after a break, ACA 5 was on my heart and my mind. And it became on the heart and minds of so many others because they realized that the stories we had been telling, the inequality that they had not experienced in terms of white privilege, that they had not had that kind of challenge, is a reality. It's a reality for too many of us. And when those folks took to the streets and raised the issue that Black Lives Matter, it was clear that those lives had not mattered, that there had never been a reckoning, there had never been anyone who paid the price for such injustice that had been done to us, and that the society still had not gotten to the point where we were beginning to accept each other as equal, that we still had a long way to go. and a long journey and a hard journey to get there. And so ACA 5 passed. And so we're now putting it on the ballot in November. And that's a new challenge that's there, because once again, we have to convince folks that we must create equal opportunity and access for everyone, that we have a unique responsibility to do that. And those of us who've been in the struggle, LGBTQ communities, as well as African Americans and Latino communities, realize that this is a journey not just for them, but it's a journey for this nation. You know, when I look and see them, the hatred that people have for each other, the fact that I even have to say Black Lives Matter, because obviously it has not mattered, that in itself brings us and pushes us forward even harder to say this is not just a work for African Americans. It's not just a work for Latinos. It's a work for all of us. And those who have benefited from the system have a unique responsibility to try to deal with the issue of injustice and to make sure that someone else gets the benefit as well. And that's why I'm excited as I look and see the protests in the streets, as I see the rallies and the things that are there. I see all kinds of folks there. I see everyone who's saying, I want a better California. I want a better United States. I want a better world, because now this challenge is around the world. I want to be able to reach out to everyone and say, you know what, wherever you live, we're going to level this playing field and you're going to have an equal opportunity and access. That you should not be in the streets crying for something that you should have been born with, which is the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You should not be across the world trying to think of things that you can do to change your world, because that has already happened for you and for everyone that's there. We have a tremendous challenge ahead. But I'm always told folks that I'm always excited when there is a challenge, because at least we are recognizing the fact that there's work to be done and there's a challenge ahead. But equally important, we are up to the challenge. We've been there. We've been on the firing lines. We've been in the places where others have not been. And yet, in spite of all of that, we are still standing. We're still here. We're still fighting for rights and justice. We have not given up. And as long as we don't give up, we will be in the position to win. You know, I'm always telling folks when they say, you know, they always say, well, don't count Weber out, because, you know, she somehow or another pulls the rabbit out the hat, or she's got something somewhere. And I always tell them that the only thing I have is the internal strength and belief of my ancestors, that my parents came here with very little. And a man who could barely read, my father, took a long journey on a train, who could barely read the signs, because he was fleeing from the Klan and coming to California to make a better life for his children. But he did not live in fear. He lived with the knowledge that he could do whatever was necessary to make his life better. And so as a result, as children, every 4 years, we packed ourselves in our station wagon, all 10 of us, 8 children to adults, and traveled across country, traveled to Arkansas to not only to be with family, but to also remind those who hated my father, who wanted to hurt him, that he was not afraid, that he'd come home. And he would always come home when he wanted to, because no one was going to run him out of his land and his heritage simply because they had hatred in their hearts. And so I learned very early that this battle may be long and hard, but we're up to the task. And if we're persistent and continue to fight, we will win. And that's what we have to remember. I think you remember that in terms of Pride Month, and we will all continue to remember all the struggles that have been there, all those who fought for justice and equality, all those who wanted to make a difference in the world. And they made a difference. They made a difference in your life and in my life. And we stand on the shoulders of those who have tremendous legacies, tremendous things that say we can move forward. And as every day when I tell folks, I've seen fear. I know what it looks like. And therefore, because I know it, I know that I don't have it anymore, that it is not in my heart to fear anybody, but to always push forward. Because when you do, you will push forward and you'll bring others with you and you will win. So this is Pride Month. And I always think of pride as something that everybody needs. No one needs to be ashamed of who they are. All of us have to be proud of what we were given in this world, whether it was parents who helped us get to where we are, whether it's a community, whether it's a friend, whether it's a church. We should all be proud of the fact that we have survived, that we not only have just merely survived, but we have grown and we have developed. And we can transfer that strength and that growth to our children, and they believe in us. My grandson said to me one time, he said, "Hey, Grandma," he said, "you're two different people." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Sometimes you're Grandma, And I don't know what that means, I guess because they have fun at my house. He said, and then the other times, you're that other lady. I said, who is that other lady? And he thought, and he looked around, he says, she is powerful. And I thought, what a wonderful tribute from my grandson to say, she is powerful. This other lady that I am, who is not grandma, but this other lady, this legislator, this community activist, he's saying, she is powerful. And I said, do you like it when she's powerful? He says, oh, yes. And I told him, that's because you will be powerful too, that you already have the power. You just have to bring it out and let it shine and make sure that what I've done is transferred to you. It is extremely important as we reach Pride Month that I once again say to you, thank you for all of your hard work. Thank you for loving me. Thanking you for helping me. Thanking you for being my inspiration, for allowing me to stand on your shoulders sometimes and even to cry on your shoulders at times. But most importantly, to be a support system, to always be there, the wind beneath my wings, the community that I fight so hard for. Oftentimes people in Sacramento say, aren't you afraid of these things? And I said, one of the things I've learned over the years is that my community loves me because I love them. And I spend all of my time trying to make their lives better, because when their life is better, so is mine. And we have that mutual love, that mutual respect for each other. So once again, I am so proud that you asked me just to simply say something that might be of inspirational or important to you. But I want you to know that I'm always here. I'm always thinking about you, always fighting for the issues that you believe in, and always relying on you to stand tall and to stand strong with me, because together we will survive and we will make it. And if we haven't learned anything at all in this whole pandemic, in this whole issue with the presidents dividing and what have you, is that when we are unified, when we're one in our perspective, we fight hard and we win. So happy Pride.
All right, thank you, Assemblymember Weber. Shirley Weber is doing incredible work to protect Black and Brown lives at the state capitol in Sacramento. And there's work that we can and need to be doing here in San Diego, in our own city halls, in our own county administration buildings. So I want to take a quick moment to uplift the work of the Coalition for Police Accountability and Transparency, which is made up of a number of groups around our region working for justice, divestment from policing, and investment in non-police alternatives. We actually just finished up last week, a week of action, and there will be more actions to come to ensure that safety applies to all of us, and to ensure that Black and Brown lives not only matter, but are valued and protected. You can find more information about CPAT on their social media accounts on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at CPAT San Diego. And now, as we get ready to start closing out our rally, a message from some of our youth. Yes.
And gray sexual youth.
My name is Joan, and I identify as a pansexual and as transgender non-binary.
My name is Jay, and I'm a pansexual cis female youth.
My name is Sophie. I am a pansexual youth.
My name is Finn, and I'm a transmasculine queer youth.
My name is Emma Plyo, and I'm a transgender lesbian youth.
This year, and even just in the past 5 months, we have seen a lot of people come together to stand for what they believe in,
despite the devastating pandemic in our world.
From fighting back against white supremacy and systematic racism with the Black Lives Matter protests,
to the LGBTQ plus community's resilience, and yet another Supreme Court case deciding whether or not we are equal citizens and deserve the same rights as any other citizen.
And also fighting for the lives of Black trans queer folk.
Even though so much work has been done to fight for these issues, we still have so much more to do, and we need to do it together.
This community is a family, and together we will fight and rise up to the top, no matter who tries to knock us down.
As LGBTQ plus youth, We need you to be engaged in this fight for justice.
We need you to vote on Election Day.
Voting is an important way we can enact change.
We must remember, not all of us are able to vote, whether that be because of age, immigration status, disability status, or lack of access.
We must vote if we are able to.
We need you to vote in November and continue to fight for justice and be our voice at the polls.
Together we rise for justice. Together we rise for transformative change. And together we rise to Election Day.
These youth are such powerhouses and just my favorites. And also, please listen to them and make sure you're registered to vote and that you vote in November. You might remember our final singer from a couple of years ago when she powerfully belted out the Star-Spangled Banner from our rally stage. She has since moved to Maui, had a super cute baby, but here's one of the silver linings of having to be virtual is that she gets to join us this year all the way from Hawaii. So I hand it over now to the singer that now goes by the stage name of Freestyle to take us somewhere over the rainbow, while, as always, we raise the giant rainbow flag over Hillcrest.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, way up high. There's a land that I've heard of once in a lullaby. Those birds, they fly over the rainbow. Why, oh, why can't I? Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me. Oh, where truffles smell like lemon drops. Oh, way above the chimney top, that's where you'll find me. Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly high over the rainbow. Why can't I? Those who dare to dream, your dreams will come true. If you believe just like I do, you will fly over the rainbow. Fly, 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 over, 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 over. The rainbow, the rainbow. trouble. No more trouble. No more clouds. Just smile. Google me.
Thank you all so much for joining us this evening as we kick off Pride Weekend in this new reality. Thank you for joining us at the Spirit of Stonewall Rally. I want to close by sharing something personal. Marilyn Cazares is from the Imperial Valley. That's where I'm from. And I can remember from the time I was in the 3rd grade being called every name in the book that I won't say right now, but being bullied and harassed because of my sexual orientation and gender identity and expression. Imperial County was the most anti-gay county in 2008 when they voted nearly 70% in favor of the anti-LGBT initiative. As we work and build our communities and our movements, we cannot forget our trans community. We cannot forget our communities of color, and we cannot forget our rural and small town communities. So many of us leave these small towns because of the bullying and harassment that we face. By the time I was in junior high and high school, the bullying and harassment had turned into death threats and actual threats against my life. People literally tried to kill me in the Imperial Valley. It is breaking my heart that we've lost Marilyn Cazares and far too many to violence and discrimination. I remember when Matthew Shepard was killed, and I looked at that face on the screen and I thought that that face looked too much like mine, and I thought that that can't be me. And I came to San Diego as a homeless youth because like 40% of all homeless youth, we're LGBT identified. I came here 21 years ago after high school. And 20 years ago, I was still battling with homelessness. And it was in June of 2000 that I was ready to give up. I can literally see the spot on the ground where I was sitting and crying my eyes out because I knew that I was done fighting. And I was so grateful to be saved by a community member and a wonderful community leader, Benny Cartwright, who put his hand on my shoulders and saw me crying and said, "What's wrong and what can I do to help?" He saved my life as he and his mother took me into their homes. And just a couple weeks later, I was able to see my very first Spirit of Stonewall Rally. And that was the first time that I heard the words lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender said as something positive. And for the people who are watching today, who are for the first time seeing themselves reflected and hearing a call to action that sounds like maybe someone out there is going to stand up for you, what's wrong and what can we do to help? The work ahead of us can seem impossibly too much. But one of my mentors, Aida Mancias, once said to me, "You want to change the world, but you can't. But what you can do is tend to your garden and teach others to do the same." At San Diego Pride and all throughout our community, that's what we attempt to do. Take care of ourselves, take care of each other, and teach others to do the same. So whether it's environmental rights or criminal justice reform or housing or employment or education or immigrant rights, we have to stand up for ourselves and each other, and we can't get in each other's way. We can't do everything ourselves, but if we stand together, we can get through this. Together, we will rise. Together, we will pursue justice with joy. Thank you, and have a great Pride.